Hello again, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. Floods, tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, earthquakes, fires, airplane or rail crashes, toxic chemical spills, or in another nightmare scenario, a terrorist incident. Even if such disasters claim no lives, inflict no serious injuries, there are still casualties. The trauma may not be immediately visible, but it's there. And the most vulnerable are the youngest of us, our children. The scars need not last a lifetime, and the healing can begin much sooner than often it does. But the speed of emotional and psychological recovery, just as physical recovery, depends on knowing what to do and being equipped and prepared to do it. Washington County is taking the lead in Arkansas, teaming with the Earth Institute's National Center for Disaster Preparedness at Columbia University in New York, and with Save the Children. What's happening then? Well, we're about to find out. Joining us tonight are Jeff Schlegelmilch, Deputy Director of the Disaster Preparedness Center, Erin Lauer, Community Preparedness Manager of Save the Children. Debbie Malone is Program Coordinator of Child Care Aware Northwest Arkansas. John Luther is Washington County's Director of Emergency Management. And Glenda Deffabaugh is Youth and Family Director of the Boys and Girls Club or clubs, we should say plural, of Fayetteville. And thanks to everybody for coming in. I will throw this up. Well, Jeff, we'll begin with you.
Sure.
What's happening here? When did this realization, but when was it decided time now is for action? I mean, these kids are really suffering. Not that their elders don't as well, but they're particularly vulnerable.
Yeah, and our center at Columbia University and Save the Children, we've been doing work in this space for a lot of years. And some of the research that we've done since Hurricane Katrina and Superstorm Sandy has really shown that children are the bellwethers of how a community is recovering. That essentially, if you want to know how a community is doing after a disaster, you look to the children. And the reason for that is that children depend on so many different aspects of the community for their well-being. And if the community isn't recovering well, the children are shouldering a lot of that burden, but they don't have the ability to really advocate for themselves. They rely on adults and caregivers to advocate for them.
Well, imagine sometimes they can't even articulate what they need. They're just stunned.
Exactly. And it'll be sometimes in nonverbal ways that it presents itself. And so we joined up with Save the Children and are sponsored by a grant from GSK, the health and pharmaceutical company, and decided that we wanted to do a project that expands on this, that takes the work that's being done every day in emergency management and with child-serving institutions and where our kids are when they're not with us, and really help kind of facilitate bringing them together based on the research and the expertise that we have in the field. And Washington County is one of the communities we have the privilege of working with on this, and just have a great history of doing great work with children, great work in emergency management.
And enter Save the Children.
Yeah, so I think we were so excited to work with Columbia and to really get the chance to do this here in Washington County, knowing that when it comes to disasters, children aren't just little adults. They've got specific needs that we need to be planning for, and there's so many other folks to bring to the table when it comes to where children are, where they could be. We know that 69 million children are separated from their parents every day, and they're where they're supposed to be. They're at school, they're at childcare, but we've got to think about those places when it comes to planning, that it's about making sure that we know where those places are, we know how to bring those folks to the table, so that when we're talking about disasters ahead of time, we're able to bring those folks in and not just have those conversations after the fact. Too often, that's been the case, and so we're excited to get to change that here.
Enter Washington County then. How did Washington County, if the county's involvement, how did that come about?
Well, we were asked to attend a meeting in Springdale with our local partners there, and in conversations we find there are those that need help putting together plans and understanding how to care for the children that they are responsible for during the week, daycare centers, pre-K schools. And so we immediately felt a passion to help, because in emergency management we're in the field, we go on the calls, we see the effects of the disasters, and we immediately said, we've got to be a part of this. And thankfully they allowed us to do that.
And we couldn't do it without you. When it came to picking a county, there's so many places that this project could be happening, but we're so excited to be doing it in Washington County because we want to find a model that's replicable for everywhere across the country. And so when we think about Washington County, it's urban and it's rural. There's folks with incredible resources and there's folks with very few resources. There's very tight-knit communities and there's a lot of newcomers coming in. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of growth in that area. And so when we think about what it means to build up a community, Washington County gave us a very interesting place to try to do it. And we think that what we're doing there is going to benefit every other county in Arkansas and hopefully every other county in America.
Pause for a moment to remind the audience that this is your network and your program, and your participation is heartily invited. Operators standing by, volunteers from the Arkansas State Employees Association, hoping to take your calls. The number toll-free, 1-800-662-2386. Your questions can arrive by email as well, and they are equally welcome. paffairs@aetn.org. Or you can tweet at AETN #ARAsk, and we'll flash those numbers up there on the screen. There was a mention earlier of Katrina, and in this trade I was on the coast for several weeks. What is it, a dozen years ago now, thereabouts, plus far too many Arkansas disasters as well. And it's always my impression that naturally the first responder, who's alive, can we save them? And then there's the triage, and then there's how do we get this timber out of here, these down trees, how do we get the water out of here, how do we restore power, natural gas, communications lines. Is it difficult then for providers such as those whose particular concern is the kids, their physical and emotional well-being? Is it difficult for you to get a toehold in that chaos? Anyone?
We've had conversations as of late. We obviously had flooding in Arkansas over the last few weeks, some devastating storms in northwest Arkansas.
Right.
And I met with a number of our emergency services, urban search and rescue responders over the last few days, and they even now, because of this program and others, talk about life safety vests, not only for the responder, who we expect to see in them, but for our victims when we go out into the water and we get people who, for whatever reason, have gotten themselves in harm's way. We now have children's safety vests because we're actually considering we have to rescue the children, and we need to think about what's the safest way to do that. Well, that's actually get vests specifically for kids. And in the past, it was just have the vests available. Typically it was for adults. And so it's really moved all the way down to the field response and how we affect those things.
And you bring up an important point too, that in a disaster there are so many visible things like trees down and things like that, whereas the impact on children can be very invisible and very persistent and may not be immediately obvious. And so it's usually kind of the first thing that you see down is the first thing that you focus on, when all the same while you're losing traction with the education of children, that they're going through emotional issues that maybe they can't articulate. I know Glenda and Debbie, you guys work with families all the time on an everyday basis with these things that maybe aren't as obvious.
Please.
Yes, and that's what we saw. I was a director of a preschool before I joined Child Care Aware. Had some of the Katrina children that came to my facility because they ended up with their grandparents. And it's very definitely you see the trauma affect them in different ways, whether it's in behavior issues, or maybe you had a child that was potty trained and then reverts back to not being potty trained. And so with this work, we're trying to help prepare and give our child care providers and our school teachers the skills to be able to recognize that in children when they come to us with trauma. And it's not always, as Jess said, the physical signs of it, but they very definitely are impacted by that. And a lot of times the younger ones, we sometimes think, oh, they're too young. They don't know, but they do know. And so they may express that in different ways, especially if they don't have verbal skills. So we're hoping to educate on how you can understand the signs to look for in children that have experienced trauma.
Well, there's a role, obviously, for nonprofits, NGOs, non-governmental organizations in this sort of work, including your admirable organization.
Yes. Our role at the Boys and Girls Club with our facility, we actually are, on the list to be a shelter. So we end up taking those families in, or whatever we had an ice storm. That's what our experience we had with it. And we had to open our doors and turn our facility into a shelter. And we saw kids from toddlers on up to people that were 80 years old. And the recent flood, actually, we had briefly was opened up as a shelter. And we saw 7 dogs and 17 people that we had in our facility. So we have to be prepared for our facility because we do serve a purpose in the community where we have things going on in our facility at all times. At any given time, we can have anywhere from 100 to 300 people in that facility. So we have to have a plan for each of those groups that's in our facility.
What do you see in those younger faces?
Well, when you mentioned
demeanor,
when you mentioned Katrina, we did have some children that came to our facility too, and so that trauma is not short term. People think, okay, they went through it, they're okay, it's all right. But every time we had a thunderstorm of any kind, we had to be very conscious that those children was very, very upset. I mean, literally, the other kids was maybe just going along the hallways, going where we were going for shelter. But these kids were devastated. So we had to start taking other precautions to make sure they knew that they were okay and they were safe.
And it's funny to see sometimes what can help make kids feel safe in that setting. I know that Save the Children's gotten a chance to work with other child care providers across the state of Arkansas, and I was talking to someone who had been through a tornado, and the children in her program needed and wanted to practice their tornado drill every day for a month. That going to their safe spot, knowing to cover their head, that they were safe there, they need to do that every day and feel comfortable with it and feel safe, and that is what helped them recover. But we know that consistency that the Boys and Girls Club is able to offer is that place that everyone comes every day. You are such a big part in folks' recovery, that anchor in the community. And I think, we've seen that with other groups that we've worked with, but I know that, it's the same for anyone who's serving children on a day-to-day basis. You help guide their recovery.
And it's critical for emergency services to have a partner like the Boys and Girls Club, because they take a lot of workload off of us and allow us to do things that they cannot do. We could shelter, we could take that role on, and we could staff up and build facilities, but it wouldn't be as effective because they do things with children every day. They do things with families every day. They're gifted at it. And so by them partnering with us, when that request comes during the flood like it did, we just ask them to step up, and they know what role they play, and they do a very good job of that. And we appreciate that in regards to it. It allows a finite resource to continue to work.
In other words, you can concentrate on getting the sewer system back up and running.
That's right.
And well, is that the management model here? Anyone? What's the structure here, ideally, for a community, a city, a county, a state, even, in confronting the fallout from a major disaster, whether it's a widespread toxic chemical spill or a tornado?
And I think you guys just said it, and we did an exercise a couple of months ago as well too. And I remember, John, you said this very well, and I've quoted you several times without necessarily crediting you. But that there. It really does take the whole community to respond, right? That these long-term needs of children, I mean, where is it in your day-to-day life where if a child is having a behavioral issue or an emotional issue where it gets recognized and referred, it's usually in a school or in a child care setting. And so in a disaster, it makes sense that those groups are leveraged. And what you had said, John, at the exercise, I remember, was that, you'll get to the child care centers, but that, you only have so many resources.
Right.
And there's some life safety issues that are very immediate. And so the more that we can do to have these child-serving institutions able to function on their own a little bit longer, the more time it buys emergency management and emergency services to make more resources available and bring more resources in. And so really leveraging the people that are already in the community and the nonprofits and the private sector and the family daycare centers, sort of leveraging the value that they already bring to the table as part of the response is really the underlying model that we're working towards.
Well, please.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say the only way that can happen, that that you can count on Glenda to open a shelter at the Boys and Girls Club, is meeting her ahead of time. We know that so often in disasters, these connections of schools and emergency responders, of emergency responders in child care and mental health resources, all these folks, public health, all these folks that it takes to really protect a community, they're meeting after. They're meeting in that recovery setting. And this project's different because we're bringing all those folks together now. in a preparedness setting. We get to make those relationships, think about those memorandum of understanding that can help make those connections and make sure that every child in Washington County can be well cared for, that their schools know what resources are available, and that we're not scrambling after the fact. We get to do it ahead of time.
And I wanted to say that in Arkansas, in 2013, a law was passed that every child care provider and child serving facility had to give to the Office of Emergency Management a plan of their facility, the ages of the children, where the children were located. So that helped kind of open the door, I think, for number one, they begin to understand, everybody knows that children are in school, we all know that, but begin to understand that, this little family home has this many children, or this center. And so then when this project came along, it was just kind of a natural progression of coming together, seeing who the partners are, as John mentioned, and begin to look further into where the children are located and how we can help meet the need if something were to occur.
It also exposed some things that we might have overlooked, and part of that is the assumption by the public that, well, we're coming,
Right.
but we have this perception that we're going to save everyone. Well, again, I mentioned finite resources. There are only so many ambulances, so many police cars, so many fire trucks, so many swiftwater rescue boats.
Right.
If we have people that are able to, in those child care facilities, be prepared to not need us, for those that do need us, we're able to respond. We're not overwhelmed. When we're overwhelmed, someone is not being cared for. So if the child serving institution can have a plan in place to take care of itself and the children for a longer period of time, we understand that sometimes, no matter what you do, it's going to overwhelm you. There's going to be a problem that you can't defeat. We're coming to take care of those folks. That's our intentions. That's our goal. But for everyone that can take better care of themselves, be it a home plan, an individual family plan, how the schools are better prepared to take care of themselves, or businesses, helps the emergency responders really focus on those that cannot.
And we have started doing a lot of preparedness training again through this project to help, as you said, child care facilities. Okay, you have the plan, but you've got to go a step further. You've got to understand the plan, share the plan with your staff, and be prepared, because we all think you call 911 and they come, but they need to understand they may not come.
A couple things are important.
72 hours.
We don't know how to take care of children every day at our office. Now, as a parent, I know a little bit about it. My wife would probably say very little. But those people, that's what they do in the schools. They are subject matter experts at taking care of children, but they're not experts at planning for emergencies. So in 13, with that legislation, it made a good joining of forces. We can help them know how to better prepare. They already know how to take care of the kids. So I can't really give them counsel on that, but I can certainly help them consider what's an off-site location that we can relocate to in the event there is a hazmat and we're not going to shelter in place, or there's a wildfire that's going to threaten this property. And how do I go in advance and make a partnership with another possibly competing daycare center that understands, you know what, at that time we're not competing, it's about the children, it's about the families, and yes, we'd love to have you come over. And we'll deal with capacity issues or whatever. And so we're not exchanging business cards the day of the crisis. And so we can't tell them how to take care of kids as well as they already do, but we could certainly work with them, and we've tried to do that.
Obvious, or central to the notion, obvious as it may seem, the structure has to be in place well in advance of the emergency. I mean, everyone needs to know what's going to happen now. What do we do now? Where do we turn?
Yeah, and I think that's really the value of doing this, as Erin mentioned, in the preparedness phase, because we're very good at documenting where things fell short, and we're good at documenting what should have happened years before, and then maybe putting a lot of resources in place after the disaster hits. But at that point, you're just building off of the foundation as it already exists. And here in Washington County and with the other county that we're working with in New York, Putnam County, New York, it's really all about trying to forge these relationships ahead of time, because they take time. They take conversations, they take relationships, but it's just inspiring to be a part of the work in these two communities. I was going to add too, as part of this project, we did a nationwide survey of attitudes and opinions on preparedness. And so, to some of the points that were made already, the majority of Americans expect help to show up at their door within an hour of a major disaster, which is strange because the level of trust in government has gone down, but the expectations have gone up. But that's the reality, and that's what it is. And that's not really, as you mentioned, it's not very realistic, and it could mean that people are not planning for a situation they would really be in, and so instead of, they won't be able to take care of themselves. And the other is that the level of personal, individual, and family preparedness, only about a third of Americans have what we would consider an adequate level of preparedness, and we think that number might actually even be artificially high. So in all of the years since 9/11, in billions of dollars in national initiatives, it hasn't really moved the needle on preparedness. And I think one of the key things that's going on in Washington County is that it's county driven. It's happening in the place where people live, not inside the Beltway, although Erin, I know you live inside the Beltway, but you live in a community within the Beltway, right? And so that's where what's so different about these conversations is the people having them.
Expectations of the government have gone up, but appetite for taxes has not.
Right.
Not in any state, not in the country. This stuff costs money, inevitably.
Yeah.
Give us the feedback in Washington, not just in Washington County, but anyone here. How do you, preparedness sounds great, but it also sounds a bit vague until the emergency arrives.
Well,
And then where's the flashlights,
Right.
where's the 911 operator, all that?
a small municipal police department in Farmington, in Washington County, asked me to attend a training to go and be able to teach in schools about active aggressors and active shooters and things of that nature. And one of the things that we took away from that class was not tactics, strategies. We took away a statement that we learned there, and the folks teaching us said it to us, and it made sense, and we share it now anytime we're in front of teachers and principals or providers. It's when seconds count, we're only minutes away. And we have to, in local government, state, federal, city, we have to be honest with the public that when seconds count, we're minutes away. What that tells them, hopefully, is they've got to make some decisions to take care of themselves for a period of time. In a major event, we may be more than minutes away because we may be overwhelmed. So what is the cost? I think the cost of not preparing is far greater than the cost of preparing. Preparing simply can be getting to know those others in your business, making arrangements with the church down the street, buying some additional supplies, having a plan, talking to the parents and saying, if we have something happen, here's where we'll be. Expect a delay possibly in picking up your child. Don't panic if that happens. We're going to be doing things to take care of your children, so work with us. Involve the parents. I think being candid in government is probably, and it maybe will help that trust factor, is if we're honest and we say things just like, when seconds count, we're minutes away. Now, we'd love to be on the scene right when the incident happens. That's what everyone works for and strives for. But we know in reality that cannot always be the case. So our honesty with the public, and the public saying, you know what, if they're going to be honest, I think it's on me to step up and make some good plans.
Well, I think that's really at the heart of our model when we think about preparing, that we know that your office, your team, the first responders are so well prepared and well trained for what to do, but it can't just be you. It has to be all of us. And so when it comes to bringing folks around the table, we know that your teams and the first responders across the county, and I'm sure across the whole state of Arkansas, are fabulously trained and ready to go, but it's going to take so many more of us to get that right. And so when you think about the cost, it's a lot of cost that's spread across all of us. It's that extra cup of coffee that we have chatting about, who do you know? Who might be helpful? How can we make that connection? Debbie and I have done so many connection points with so many folks, and it's sitting down and visiting with them.
And that's what I was going to say when you talk about costs. The cost of getting to know the Office of Emergency Management. If I had not been required to write a plan and then submit my drawing and so forth, I didn't know who the Office of Emergency emergency management was, really. And so that part of it is free, to sit down and go and meet with our officials to start building this community, this coalition. And my desire is to empower other child care providers to be able to do that too, to understand they can call, they can call John and say, would you come out and help me with this? That's empowerment, to be able to give them that information. And so kind of the aspect, I think, of the coalition that we're building is that aspect of not necessarily the financial part of it, but just building this community that understands, number one, the needs of the community, and then how that community will react if something were to happen.
And on this project, there's also, we've got an eye towards sustainability on this as well, too. That one of the things that's happening with these counties is we're putting together the tools and the templates and the lessons learned, so other communities who want to do this, who may not have the resources that are available to these two communities, won't have to start from scratch, but they'll have a head start. But we also have another component that's focused on national policy. So we formed a National Children's Resilience Leadership Board that's made up of current and former government officials, thought leaders from academia, nonprofit, and the private sector, who all have different networks and different lenses and different perspectives. And their role is really to elevate this, because what we're learning here is what matters in the community. What are the things that actually matter for protecting children in a disaster where they live? And making sure that that conversation doesn't just happen in Washington County and Putnam County, but that it gets elevated into our national discussions that go into formulating policy and legislation and figuring out, some of it is more resources, some of it is better use of the resources, and some of it is removing restrictions, making it easier to have those conversations between government and the private sector and nonprofit for this. Yeah.
Questions from viewers, and Pulaski County viewer notes, for example, the Red Cross. Is it ideally structured, all of your nonprofit organizations would be integrated into this plan? For example, I assume the Red Cross, other.
You can't talk disasters without the Red Cross. My goodness, they're such an important part of this. Yeah. No, it's when we think about all those nonprofits that come to the table in Washington County, we have so many great community partners that are fabulous resources to be a part of this. So whether that's the Red Cross that comes and joins us, whether that's the local community clinic, whether that's the Hispanic women's organization, the faith-based community, there are so many folks that have to be around the table for this to really work.
Well, disaster preparedness, obviously not my line of work, but it would not have occurred to me that the Boys and Girls Clubs could play a very important role in the response.
Well, I would like to add up with John, these meetings, what I have brought from these meetings is finding out who the different sectors was and the roles that they're playing. And in turn, it led me to go back and say what role we can play, which ends up being making sure that we're adding emergency preparedness to our orientation of all of our staff. Right. And that's going on ongoing throughout the year. Also reviewing and updating our emergency plans. And that makes a huge difference, because times have changed. We didn't have to worry about so much about active shooting all the time, but it happens. So we have to review and keep updated and keep training our staff, because we need them to be calm when anything happens, so they can keep the children calm. Right. If the children are calm, we can move them quicker in an orderly manner. And so we just feel like this training is so important for all of our staff.
Emergency management's role, and by the way, you mentioned finance. We've not billed anybody for this. Nobody's gotten a bill for our involvement. The bill is in taxes, as you already mentioned. And so we feel an obligation to serve the public and do what they're paying us to do, and that's to get out and prepare. But the real role we see is coordination. We bring, hopefully, the subject matter experts to the table. Police, fire, EMS, utility companies, our partners like the Boys and Girls Club, Red Cross, and many, many others. And so our role is to kind of set the party together. Let's bring everybody to the table and then have those conversations. And what we find is oftentimes we can pull away a little bit at that point and let them really go one-to-one, so that the fire department does a tour of the facility, but the fire department also takes EMS and law enforcement. And so as those people walk through the facility and help her with her planning, and we're obviously a part of that, they can point out things that may be points of weakness or points of strength that she might not have seen. And so she's already paying for that. That's already covered. So from the local government side, we've got an obligation to be at the table.
And I'd always joke when we were at the meetings at the Boys and Girls Club that if you opened up as a shelter, I'm going there because you guys have bumper pool. But there's a certain deeper truth to that. It's absolutely true. I would go there because you have bumper pool, but also because it's an environment that's conducive to families.
Right.
That that's what it's used for every day. And I think that's one of the things too when we look at resources, and you mentioned taxes, but there's also these resources in the community that are already doing this every day, and if they could just keep doing it or just pivot a little bit, you can have an arena that's turned into a shelter with a bunch of cots, and if that's what you have to do, that's great. And I know Save the Children does a lot of work to create child-safe spaces and child-friendly, but the Boys and Girls Club is already a child-friendly space with the activities and the expertise and the staff, and it's just such a shorter distance and such a great environment for children and families. And so a lot of these resources are already in the community. It's just a matter of figuring out how to integrate them in the planning. So.
Hey, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say efficiency in our use of resources is important as well. So with the coordination, we're not opening 5 shelters with just a small number of people when in fact it might be more efficient and fit the need better to open one. Well, we do that as long as we can, but we also do it if we communicate with one another about the need.
Yes.
And that's where, again, our coordination piece plays a vital role. We're working with EMS, fire, law enforcement, those people in the field seeing the crisis unfold, and they're able to tell us, here's what we're seeing and here's what we need, and then we're able to get with the right partners at the right time.
A number of years before Katrina, I was on another coast right after Hugo. Mm-hmm. And we'll all recall that FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, which was mentioned earlier, got a scolding, to put it mildly, from the political community. And a senior FEMA executive in D.C. who I interviewed said, look, let me ask you this is the central question. How big do you want the Army in peacetime? Mm-hmm. Now, that is ultimately a political question. Yeah. It's a leadership question. How difficult is it going to be for your counterparts in the other 74 counties in Arkansas to get a seat at the table?
And this is our center looks at mega disasters a lot, and we talk about the military because there are certain kinds of disasters that are just so big and so disruptive that you need the logistical expertise of the military, that you need these national systems in place. And so there's obviously a threshold where you do need that, but at the same time, disasters are best served by the community. And so by increasing the ability of the community to make that response, it reduces the need to use the example of the large army in peacetime. I think sometimes it's very easy to say, well, make FEMA bigger, let's call the military in earlier. But if we're really talking about what's in the best interests of the recovery of a community and getting back to normal and meeting the needs of children, the more that can be done using the resources of the community, the faster that process is going to take, to the extent that it's possible.
Well, are we talking about utilization then? Because I will not call Washington County affluent. You can if you want. I would call it affluent, but no one would challenge that there are some counties in Arkansas that are desperately trying to pay their bills.
Right.
Just keep the lights turned on the courthouse. So obviously then utilization of existing resources would be central to their preparedness, but is there a level at which the state can come in?
Certainly, if a county faces a crisis that overwhelms their abilities, they can do a declaration of emergency to the governor, and the governor then has, I think, an obligation. Certainly, he wants to, like we've seen in the last couple of weeks, help his counties and provide outside resources. It may be those from other counties, it may be those from state agencies and or federal agencies. So there's certainly a mechanism in place. It's been utilized many, many, many times with great effectiveness. What needs to happen, though, in that particular county, ahead of that problem, is they've got to have a good plan in place to do everything they can until it overwhelms them and they ask for outside assistance. So there's some personal responsibility within the county to be prepared. And being prepared in the county is not just the county being prepared, but it's the county and all the cities and the volunteer organizations and the schools and everyone involved. And when we've reached capacity with what we can affect at that point, that's when we ask for outside help. Now, we don't wait till the last minute. But certainly we see that coming, and then we say, hey, we need outside help in there. Our neighbors are always glad to provide it. We've provided it across state lines. We went to Joplin and assisted there. That was an overwhelming disaster, the Joplin tornadoes. We've been to Albert Pike with the flooding effort, where the folks were lost at Albert Pike. We've been to Denning in Franklin County. We're willing to move our resources out of Washington County, and we know there are counties that are willing to bring us their resources. But the best thing we can do in Washington County is know our immediate partners and leverage everything we can from them.
Is there a danger, though, particularly in the less affluent counties, that the children, our focus tonight, the children get lost in the shuffle? It's one thing to get power restored and fallen trees off the highways. Children can easily get lost in the shuffle. As a layman, I would imagine.
Absolutely, but I think what's exciting, one of the things that's happening across Arkansas, this isn't the only project thinking about children in disasters in Arkansas. There's a statewide project that's being led by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, working on a pilot for children's reunification. We know that that's a big concern after a disaster, getting children back with their parents, that after Hurricane Katrina there were 5,000 reports of children separated from their parents. So while this project that's happening in Washington County is one piece of what it's going to take to keep all of Arkansas's children safe, then we know there's another project happening that's statewide that's going to help connect some of those dots. We know that it can take the form of things like the Arkansas Youth Preparedness Council that helps champion children's issues, and that Arkansas was the first state in the country to have a Youth Preparedness Council of its own at the state level. There's a lot of enthusiasm and energy right now in the state around children and disasters, and certainly we are hoping to share what we're learning through venues like this and through others at the EM conference, to share what we're learning with the other 74 counties.
And I was going to say that down in Sebastian County, there are several smaller counties like Scott, Logan, and the local Emergency Preparedness Committee down there actually is made up of 8 counties and 2 out of Oklahoma. And so they work very closely together, and we've been going to those meetings as well, and they're getting ready to have a functional drill with some emphasis on children because of just the education part of us being able to say, you know, we really need to think about children. So it seems a lot of times the smaller counties come together and work together.
Consortium, sort of.
Exactly.
Well, I think it goes back to relationship building. I mean, the theme this whole conversation has been relationships.
And I think one of the key things, and to kind of answer the question you're getting at too, is that an area with less resources, you go into a disaster with what you have. And if you have less, you have less to go into it with. And I think that that's a very hard truth, is that the needs of children very oftentimes are not met on a daily basis, much less in a disaster. And so, you know, there are children on wait lists for various different programs to assist in their development and their education. But what this model is really looking to do is to try to say, well, what untapped relationships exist in the community? And how can we bridge those gaps within the community to help make sure that of the resources that are there, they're being utilized to their maximum ability. But it is a much bigger question on investing in meeting the needs of children in the long term on a day-to-day basis only improves the ability to meet their needs in a disaster.
We're talking about preparedness and in addition to response. So a number of viewers tonight, just Faulkner and Boone and Searcy County, are asking, in terms of, is there a way to prepare a child who has never experienced a tornado or a flood or a forest fire approaching the house? How should parents prepare their kids?
It's a hard conversation to have, and it's something that Save the Children's been working on for the past 5 or so years, because we saw that there were too many parents who didn't know how to have those conversations with their kids about what a disaster is, what it means to be prepared, what steps we can take. And so Save the Children has a program called the Prep Rally. It's a little pun on a pep rally. So it's all about preparedness, making it fun, taking the scary out of disaster. And we've been so excited to work with the Boys and Girls Club, work with Child Care Aware to bring prep rallies to schools, after-school programs, child care programs in Washington County, where we teach kids the basics of emergency preparedness, that you don't need to be scared, that we're going to learn about this, we're going to be prepared, and we're going to know our in case of emergency contacts. We're going to think about a family plan. We're going to make sure we have the right supplies in our go bag, and that helping kids understand that it's just 1 or 2, 3 quick steps we can take can make a world of difference. And you know, whether that's for younger kids thinking about, have they memorized phone numbers? I know that that's something we all grew up doing. That's really not the case anymore. So many folks don't memorize phone numbers. That are we teaching kids phone numbers? Are we teaching them how to evacuate? We have so many fire drills at school, but how many of us have had them around the dinner table? Not a lot of American families do. And so the Prep Rally program is designed to teach kids the basics of that, because when kids are empowered with information, they're ready to go. We can take the scary out of disaster. So it's something that I think we've been really excited to bring forth, because we know that as adults, we have an obligation to plan for children, to prepare for children, but we also need to talk to kids about it. They need to be a part of how we prepare them for a disaster. And through programs like the Prep Rally, we can.
And there's some wonderful books that you can read to children. You know, most parents do read to their children a lot. There are some great books that again, take the scary out, but it helps you to start that conversation, and then you can build a to-go bag with your child. You know, you put in there some of their things that make them feel safe, along with maybe a toothbrush, a coloring book, and those types of things. So I think books is a wonderful avenue if you don't really know how to get that started, that conversation.
The more aware the children are also that they have a part to play in how the disaster evolves. It's interesting from the field response side, especially with people driving into water and floods and things of that nature. It's typically not the choice of the child. And I think that's been frustrating for us, is that sometimes the decisions that we make as adults aren't good decisions for the children. And I've joked before and said sometimes I wish we would let the children make the decision, because they probably would have made a better one. It's obvious to the child, and that doesn't look like a good idea, we probably shouldn't do that, but to the adult who either has become complacent or impatient or whatever, sometimes choices are made that have an ill effect on the children as well as the adults, and then on the responders.
Linda Deffabaugh, do you see how big a role for the citizen volunteer before the disaster arrives?
Well, I feel like we said, when we talk about these things, sit around the table and have these conversations, we can decide then how we're going to even train our volunteers. When we talk to them, we want to talk to them about the role they can play. I think that's the biggest thing, is telling people about the roles that are out there and let them decide what role and how could they fit that role to help out. And when we're talking about also sharing this information, we've got to share it. Like, we're having a big Northwest Arkansas, what we call our impact training in June. We have Boys and Girls Club coming from all around Arkansas. We feel it's our obligation to take that time to share what we know now about updating our manual, emergency manual, because they all work with children. We want to be that role model, hopefully to have the model that they can go by to compare their manual with right now and see what they're leaving out. And we're so thankful and grateful that Save the Children are here and helping us with that. So I feel that, we do that with our volunteers, anyone that's going to be coming in contact with our children. And in our community, we're blessed that we do have so many people that want to help and want to volunteer and want to find out what role they can play.
We did some research on community human service organizations, so these nonprofits that serve people every day, Meals on Wheels, things like that. And we found too that the more prepared people are themselves, the more likely they are to educate their clients on preparedness and to do a better job doing it. And it's funny because it's very simple, very boring things can make such a big difference in terms of the outcome in a disaster. And having that conversation, adding this element to that training, talking through with your family sort of what you would do in a disaster and where those resources are. And children can really drive that. I still remember when my daughter came back from a trip to the trash museum and was going through our trash, and this is recyclable. Look at the number on the back of the plate. We recycle now. Yeah. So if we can do it for recycling, I think we can do it for disasters.
Well, and we're raising a generation each time we have a group of kids that we educate on how to be prepared. Before you know it, there are a lot of kids out there that have grown up with the thought of being prepared. The Youth Preparedness Council is a great example. State of Arkansas is a leader in that. Arkansas Department of Emergency Management needs to be commended for the effort that they've put into that. And those children that are on that Youth Preparedness Council, they will forever look at emergency preparedness in a different light. I know the children oftentimes of responders, my two children in specific would be maybe the ones you don't judge by because they get it beat into their brain, but the children that aren't exposed to crisis should be, in the right manner, as you mentioned, and taught that they can overcome. They can be prepared. They can hopefully have less bad impact because of the efforts that they put forth. And I think that that's where we have to move, is raise generations of kids that are prepared to deal with problems, or maybe not even get into them.
There's a real empowerment message now, right?
Yeah.
Where it's gone from being really scared of what's next, or scared and like if you don't prepare by Friday, you could be dead by Tuesday, to here's what you can do to help yourself. Here's what you can do. You know, we argue too, like having high school students take first aid classes makes them an asset in a response. You know, families taking first aid classes and being prepared, they can not only care for themselves, but they can care for each other. And so, yeah, it's been really encouraging over the years to see the script kind of get flipped a little bit from one of fear to one of empowerment, and here's what you can do. And I think with children, it's really the long game. It's preparing the next generation to
And they're
really
so capable.
continue it. Yeah.
They are.
You know, we talk
Very
about
young ages.
So
Yeah.
much more than we ever think.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you make it fun for them.
Yeah.
You really
Yes.
do.
Yes.
And then they
And
get
involve
it and
them.
involved, yes. And they love to be involved with it.
They can
Yeah.
be part of the solution.
Yes.
And isn't that so
Exactly.
exciting and so empowering that instead of being scared and not quite sure what's going to happen, I have a role to play.
Right.
And my job is to grab my go bag and my teddy bear and make sure that I meet at the tree outside of our house, because that is my job. And my mom has a job and my grandma has a job, but I know my job. And when I do that, we are going to be prepared.
Sounds like an app is needed for their smartphones. I mean, they catch on right away. I mean,
That's true.
I can see where after, well, let's use a tornado. I can see where a child is recovered, and perhaps her parents, siblings, or everyone is rescued from a shattered house safely, alive.
Mm-hmm.
The child can have his or her broken arm set and recover from that in what? I'm not a clinician, 3-4 months. But up here,
Yes.
child's going to remember that for life. And is that not where it gets kind of expensive? We're talking about.
I think it's how well was the child prepared to deal with that incident when it happened. If it was very foreign to them, if they were possibly, through their parents, sheltered from the potentials, I think it's probably more devastating to them. But if they were prepared, that they know there are ways that they can take measures to survive an incident like that. That's one thing Director Fugate with FEMA, when he really coined the phrase survivors instead of victims. I really like that. I mean, these people are survivors. And so if we can teach our children to be survivors, certainly there's going to be things that they have to get past after living through a crisis like that. But the more aware they are that surviving is a possibility and we should want to do that and we can work and put effort into that, I think it will help them deal with the aftermath much better.
And Dr. Lori Peak, who's a big friend of the initiative, gave a keynote at the Arkansas Early Childhood Education Conference. AEC, did I say that right?
AECA, but you said it right.
Yeah, and she wrote a book with her co-author about, it's called The Children of Katrina, and it follows the trajectory of children after Katrina. And to your point, it absolutely can be the difference. There are these crossroads where the children are traumatized by the disaster, and they either have a presence in their lives that puts them back on a trajectory where they have the opportunity to thrive, or they miss that, and they sort of quietly kind of descend into this perpetual cycle of mental health issues and despair. And again, these are very hidden. These aren't very obvious. We have some sheets we've put together on some of the signs to look out for and things like that. And it's very simple differences to sort of restore some sense of stability, restore some sense of structure to the child's life. That can be the difference between how far down that trajectory they go. But it's so easy to forget when you're dealing with flood insurance claims on your house or trying to get back into a shelter. One of our studies after Superstorm Sandy, we found children who were in homes that weren't damaged generally didn't have mental health issues. Obviously, children who were in homes that were totally destroyed had some mental health issues higher than the ones who didn't, but it was the ones in the middle. It was the ones whose homes were partially damaged that were the most likely to experience long-term mental health issues. And we suspect it's because they're living in this constant uncertainty. Maybe they're still living in the home with the damage. It's not a
You see the
clear-cut
damage on a
case.
daily basis as opposed to the
Yeah,
house being totally
it's this
ruined.
persistent.
Debbie and I have talked about this for
Oh,
so
yes.
long because it's such a personal passion.
It is, and I was going to say, you know, when you talk about sustainability of the project, I can see this being that continuum of looking, because the reality is most of our children are in child care provider homes or centers or at the schools longer than they are in their own home, on an average 8 hours a day. So that child care provider or teacher sees that child more and interacts more in reality than when they're at home. And so if we, through training, we feel like if we can provide training to those that are caring for our children to understand the triggers, to understand, you know, look for what might be going on in that child, and give them the tools to then to be able to meet that child's needs. That really doesn't cost anything. You know, we provide training on a daily basis through our office, and other Save the Children does trainings too. But we believe that is the key then to meet the need of that child and maybe keep them from having to go to a professional.
Right, exactly.
But, you know, addressing that trauma right then.
Yeah.
Some other benefits come out of this. I've got a close friend on our search and rescue team who actually came to me and said, hey, can we visit about the emergency operations plan for my child's care facility? Parents want to know. They want to know, what does the facility offer? What's the facility going to do to take care of my child on a daily basis? And we talked about that, and we had conversations about it. And my recommendation was, you're a very smart person. If you have questions, call me, but you go get involved. And he did.
Yeah,
And that
get
can be a
involved.
hard conversation to start.
Certainly.
We've worked with some parents, and we actually, Save the Children just produced a checklist that's, so you want to ask your child care provider about their emergency plan. Where do you even start? Because if you're not a professional, it can be hard to start that conversation. And the more parents ask, the more child care providers are prepared to talk about it, want to make those connections. And my goodness, now we're looking at a big change.
And you talked about your staff being prepared. We kind of look at the cost benefit. Again, we're back to cost, but the benefit is this: the better prepared her facility is, those people don't leave that preparedness mentality at work. They go home and they're better prepared, hopefully, than at home, and they share it with others, and so you get a compounding effect that can benefit you very well.
Great sigh of relief on a family's part, including presumably children. If the disaster passes and they're alive and there's no serious injuries like that, any indication as to when a child is likely to, with some emotional or psychological scars, how soon they will present, I think is the term, after the storm passes or the fire is extinguished or the floodwaters recede?
So it's every child is different, every family is different, but it's not unusual for most people and most children to experience some degree of trauma, some signs like some regression in behavior, maybe wanting to read extra books, extra food, or not as much food. And it's not that out of the ordinary to see some of those behaviors for a couple of days, for a little while. But when you see really pronounced, or when you see it's really persistent beyond, and parents know their children best, and their teachers and their caregivers know them best, they're the ones who are going to see this. If it doesn't seem to be going away, if it doesn't seem to be something that, you know, is just sort of a short-term adjustment, we really encourage folks, you know, that's when you really want to reach out, if not sooner, that, you know, trust your gut on this, but if it's persisting, if it's not going away, then that's when it's
And you
really...
may see it at different times based on children getting to come back with their peers. We know that for so many kids, it's about their teacher, but it's also about their classmates. That is their community. And so, you know, if something was to happen at the end of a school year, it might be a couple of months before they realize that who they were connecting with isn't there anymore, that folks have moved away. So that, you know, whether it's 3 months, it can be 6 months, it could be next soccer season when I realize my favorite soccer field isn't there anymore. That for children, it can be months, years before we see all of those symptoms. And that's why when we think about recovery as a community, it's going to take all of us, and it's not a 3-month process. It's a multi-year process to get this right.
And the reaction of the parents oftentimes, I think, has a huge effect on the children. Because who do we immediately as children look to? Our parents or those caregivers, people that we trust. Well, if they are reacting better because of their preparedness, that has to have a good effect on the children. But if the parents or caregivers are having a lot of struggles, that will have an effect as well. So I think that preparedness just continues to filter down.
have about 90 seconds remaining in the program. Several individuals have called in to ask, okay, I've watched your program. I've got kids, what do I do? I mean, what's step one for me now? I want to prepare them for a worst case scenario. What do I do?
Call your emergency management office. You mentioned 75 counties. There's 75 emergency management offices. We're very fortunate in Washington County. We've got an amazing staff. They make our office look very good. We're proud of that. Ask your first responders. What relationships do you have with the child care facilities? And then talk to those folks about how to be involved.
And we have a lot of, go ahead, Debbie.
Well, I was just going to say, for a parent, find out, go talk to the teacher or talk to the director or talk to the principal and ask about the plan and get to know what that plan is. If something were to happen here, where would I go to get my child? A reunification plan. Again, somebody mentioned about knowledge is power, and I think that empowers parents to feel better that I know what's in place for my child if something were to happen during the day and I was at work and couldn't get to them.
And the resources are on the initiative website, a lot of the ones we mentioned today. So ncdp.columbia.edu/RCRC, or you can just Google Resilient Children and Resilient Communities Initiative. And we've got links to a lot of the resources, including a lot of the amazing resources that Save the Children has to offer.
Start a family plan, read a story, have a fire drill around the dining room table tomorrow night. Think about what's that thing that you can start the conversation with.
Right.
Do the prep step.
Well, of course.
We should have brought the music.
Yeah.
We could have closed with it.
If you're looking for a song and dance to get your kids moving, we have Save the Children created something called the Prep Step, and it is a song and dance that once you hear it, you will never unhear it. But your children will be walking around talking about their in case of emergency contacts, that they're going to have a family plan and practice it too, and that they're going to have a go bag with something that makes them smile. That we know that all of those things are going to make kids feel safe.
Got to end it there, but it's been a very good hour. Our thanks to a very good panel on a very
Thank you so much.
special, very serious subject. Thank you for watching. See you next time.